Hey there, I'm Mike Dunn with Gaming Trend, and we're at GAMA Expo 2023, and I'm here with Ammon Anderson here, and he's going to show us his game, Gnome Hollow. Ammon, tell us about yourself in the game.
Great, yeah. This is my second outing as a game designer. Gnome Hollow is kind of a passion project for me. It came out of like a really weird time in my life, and I started illustrating a meadow, and it turned into this game over the last 3 years. So, Gnome Hollow is a tile placement with an evolving worker placement system. So, as players are building out this board by adding tiles on their turns, they're also adding signposts, and they're adding wildflower tiles that all become worker placement locations on the board for players. So the player that places things gets those benefits, but then other players can also come and take those benefits. Which
Very nice.
So
does the first player get a benefit from other players getting benefits?
Yeah, so what happens is like if I place a sign into this ring because I built it. So and we could actually talk about the board here for a second. So this board is actually how players leverage rewards by strategically building rings. So as a player is building a ring, and this is a ring of mushrooms, by adding tiles together, they're going to count the number of tiles that are in that ring, and then they're going to come to their board and they're going to see 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 plus. So this is a 5-tile ring, and so they're essentially able to move down one of their markers and pick a reward. So that reward might be a signpost. And when they place that signpost into that ring, they're immediately going to get the reward like that and add it to their supply of mushrooms.
Okay, so these are mushrooms, mushroom tokens here.
Yeah, so we got these really cool, fun mushroom tokens. And we have these really cool, fun flower tokens. And as players are collecting these and getting these benefits, when they're moving around, so let's say that my gnome moves over here, another player can move in, and they can access that same signpost that someone else already placed.
Okay.
So the options for what a player can do grow as the garden grows.
Nice.
But they can't do everything. So they're strategically picking signposts that create value. So some signposts give 1 mushroom that's really valuable, some signposts give 2, some give 3, and some give you extra tiles. And you're placing things based off the strategy that you're building on your board.
Okay. And this is the obviously the starting tile.
This is the starting tile, yeah.
And what is this in the middle here?
This is the pinwheel market symbol, and that pinwheel market symbol is essentially a place where the gnomes can move as one of their actions to visit this board here, and they're going to be trading in their mushrooms for treasures, which are right here. So treasures are like crystals and feathers and bottle caps of buttons and skeleton keys.
Nice.
Which are really fun little tokens.
Yeah.
And they're trading those. And as gnomes are going to the market to trade for those treasures, they're going to be blocking those sales from any other gnome in Hollow from making that same deal.
Okay.
So as the larger deals are disappearing, people are going to be going to the market to try to get those victory points.
Okay.
So essentially in the game, players can score points in 3 ways. 1, by creating rings, and every time they create a ring on their board, their score is automatically going up.
Okay.
And it's calculated by the board.
Okay.
They can score points by collecting flower tokens, and every time they dock a unique flower token, there are different colors because it's a set collection.
Okay.
Their flower score goes up. And the last way they can score points is by selling their mushrooms at the pinwheel market for treasure.
Okay.
And so there's multiple paths to victory. And players can take different strategies to try to gnome the other gnomes in the hollow.
That's fantastic. First of all, I just want to say this is freaking adorable.
Thank you.
Like this is such a great theme, and I mean, you know, fantasy gnomes. Like, I mean, wouldn't it be awesome if you could get like remember those old gnome books from like back in the 70s and 80s? Like, I imagine that must have been an influence on you.
Yeah. Garden gnomes and they're kind of trendy, but they're also like I wanted to make my own gnomes that had like kind of their own personality for this sort of like hidden hollow that's in the mountains that nobody can find. Yeah. So they're like doing their thing and living in a peaceful, serene place.
Personally, I'm more of a fan of garden gnomes than pink flamingos.
Nice.
But you know, the flamingos have a place. let me get back to the game though.
Sure.
How do you place the tiles? Do you have a set number of tiles at the beginning? Or?
Yeah, so there's a tile market of 8 tiles out at any given time.
Okay.
And on your turn, every player is going to place 2 tiles of their choice into the garden. So
okay.
it's just like I can place, just like that. And I can choose to place that there. And that's my tile placement for my turn.
Okay.
And then I get to take one of 4 actions.
And it's basically identical. It's just how you want on either side.
Identical, but they're also mirrored. So like this here, like they go in different places, but if you mirror it, it goes the opposite direction on certain tiles.
Got it.
So gnomes are going to place 2 tiles, and they're going to take one of 4 actions. So those 4 actions are to reserve a pathway, or they can visit a signpost. They can visit the pinwheel market to trade for treasure, or they can visit a flower. So he could come here and visit that flower and then collect that. But they only get to choose one of those 4 things with one of their 2 gnomes on their turn.
Oh, okay. And now how do the flowers end up on the tiles? Is that a random thing or is there a set amount that come out?
There's a set amount that come out.
Okay.
And
I see. That's the last one. Collect the flower. So you're getting 1 tile and a flower.
Yeah, so
instead of 2 tiles.
What happens is you're getting these tiles by creating rings. So these are actually locked. No one can access those.
Okay.
Once you create a ring that has this thing, you get this tile, and it can actually be played as a bonus on your turn as a wild, and anything can connect through it to continue creating. So it's a wild that you're earning by creating rings.
All right. And so on the 3 slot, you can unlock one, and it looks like you've got some throughout here as well,
so these are to collect the tokens.
To collect the tokens, okay.
On the 3 slot, you can get a tile.
On the 10 and on the 18. All right.
So there's 3 times that a player can actually collect a wildflower tile, but collecting tokens can be happening by just visiting that location. So like if this was placed into the garden like this, Blue Gnome could actually move here and collect that token on his turn as an action.
Okay. So when you hit a 3 and you take this, for instance,
correct,
you're just placing it. You don't actually get the flower yet. You have to go there.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a risk in placing the flower tiles because other players could go get the flowers before you.
So there's not a risk, and here's why.
Okay.
So when you get this tile, so like let's say I unlock this tile, as soon as that comes into play,
you can move there.
He can move there. Okay. And he can get it.
Okay.
But the value of this...
Sorry, because you said that was acts like a free action.
It's a free action. And the value of this is that you have a 3rd tile that can be played to build a bigger ring faster. And it can solve problems if the right tiles aren't coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Does the number of tiles in play during the game vary according to what your player count is?
They don't.
They don't?
So like there's... In a 4-player game, there's 92 tiles, and it's one of the end triggers for the game. So if you run out of tiles, the game's over.
Okay.
But it also can trigger the game if a player collects all 8 flowers, or they create all 8. They move all 8 ring markers.
Okay.
Or if all 7 signposts enter into the garden, it triggers the end game.
Wow. Okay. So that's a delicate balance right there.
So there's 4 different ways players can end the game.
Yeah.
All while trying to acquire as many points through the 3 tracks as they can during gameplay.
And I'm guessing it's at the end of once the end game is triggered, then it's about tabulating points.
Correct. Yeah.
And you get points for the treasures.
You do.
And you get points up here.
Yeah. So you get the points on this. So let's just pretend I had 3 flowers at the end of the game, and I had moved 6 of my ring markers. I would have 18 points in ring markers, and I'd have 6 points in flowers, and then I would have whatever points I had, on what I had traded throughout the game. So there's 3 numbers, you add them together, and that's your final score.
Awesome. I just noticed something. This should be done with every game, I think. The magnets, this is fantastic. I love this.
Yeah.
Especially with little bits like this. That's great. I didn't notice that until I picked it up and
isn't that fantastic?
It's so satisfying. It's like a visceral pleasure, you know.
Well, and it just like goes like right where you want. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
sure.
boom.
So what's funny is when I was making my pitch video, because I submitted this to the Ion Award and I submitted this to the Cardboard Edison. Every time I was filming, I would try to place a thing where I wanted it to go, and it would like skitter across the board. And so I designed these magnetic boards specifically so that I could shoot video and they would go right where I wanted.
Nice.
And then when I was playing the game with people, they said, this has to be in the game.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, this has to be the game. I don't want any game that doesn't have this. So I've actually been meeting with manufacturers in China, and they assure me that we can make this.
Yeah.
So we're working on that.
I was going to say, what is it? Merchants of the Dark Road has a magnetic feature on the board.
Yeah.
That was like the reason why I got a copy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love that. Now you mentioned the Ion Awards and the Cardboard Edison Awards. You tell us about that, because that's a pretty major achievement for Gnome Hollow.
It's really exciting that this has been chosen for a finalist for both of them.
Wow.
So I didn't win the Ion Award, which is great, but I still like that led to a lot of attention being hit on this game. A lot of publishers showing interest, like, let's talk about Gnome Hollow.
Right.
And then when they announced that this is a finalist for the Cardboard Edison, it just doubled that. Right?
Yeah.
So we haven't heard what the final results are.
Yeah.
for the
Cardboard Edison, they just announced like a week or two ago, right?
Yeah, they're announcing in May.
Yeah. I mean the finalists.
They just announced finalists. So it's super exciting to have that there. So
is this your first game?
This is my second
Your
game.
second game. Okay.
My first game.
Still, second game to get nominated twice. That's pretty good, man.
It's really exciting. So I took this to a bunch of conventions. We took it to Dice Tower West, and I had like people playing this game all day for 4 days. Like 100 people played this game in 4 days, and more people were saying, I'm so sorry I missed playing this. So it's tracking really well, and it's getting a lot of interest. Especially the table presence, I think, really draws people in.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know you're gonna be very popular this convention, and I really want to play this because this looks fantastic. Like,
I'd love to.
even like the prototype quality alone is really nice. The magnets, everything, the bits, but the gameplay you just described is it's not too heavy, it's not too light, and I love games that have different paths to victory. And now the only thing that I have about games with different paths to victory, sometimes it's hard to like keep tabs on other players, how close they are.
Well, the nice thing is that you can just look at their thing and see what they're going for.
Right.
You can see how many like treasures they've caught. You can see like what they're building.
Right.
You can look at this board and see what they're going for. And also, whenever they're getting like a great reward, you're able to like jump over there and grab it too.
Right.
As your action. But the real question is that action worth more than taking one of the other 4 actions? And so in the beginning of the game, it's really simple. You're like, oh, I place 2 tiles and I move my gnome onto my spot.
Right.
As the game progresses, like the complexity increases, and it ramps up until the end, which feels very much like a crescendo. And at the end, you're like, man, well, how can I get those last few points so that I can like end this game great?
Right. Yeah, that last turn with analysis paralysis to try to figure out how to maximize the last possible thing that you can do to get the most possible points.
And the feedback we've gotten is that the level of complexity and that intensity of those decisions toward the end of the game is super satisfying.
Right. Oh, and I think that's great too, because especially play like a first time playthrough, like you're not going to know a strategy. You're not going to have a good plan, and you're going to be like tinkering around with different mechanics.
Yeah.
It feels like this is a little more forgiving if you're just kind of messing around on the first few turns, because it doesn't really get too hard until the end.
Yeah, you can kind of get your feet under you.
Yeah.
And even if you like make a few mistakes, like there's no real value in going more than a 7-tile ring. But even if you make one, there is a counterbalance in that you're going to capture a bunch of mushrooms that really let you come and get a lot of points here. So like there's some built-in balance, but at the same time, like clever players are rewarded in this game because they're able to like use these systems to leverage basically the garden to really get some cool points and have some big, like satisfying turns that kind of have cascading effects because they've planned out what they're building.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I know the mushrooms are important for the marketplace. Do they count for anything as far as points at the end?
No.
Oh, that's
Mushrooms go bad fast.
no, that's right.
So like if you don't spend your mushrooms before the end of the game, they're gone.
Nice.
So you better get to the market and not wait around. So
Yeah.
during a market visit, you can trade up to 2 types of mushrooms at any given trade. So if I come here, I could trade teals and reds
Okay.
because maybe that's what I've like collected.
Right.
And I'm drafting tiles that are
Okay.
supporting what I'm building here. So it's a combination of drafting those tiles, building the rings that give you the rewards that you want to get the mushrooms that you need to get the highest value in the
Wow.
marketplace.
Okay.
And so like all those things are balancing, and sometimes you're like, okay, I'm just gonna give up on that, but I am gonna go and get the signpost that gives me the 3 red mushrooms, you know, that I need to get the highest value in a red trade, and then I'm gonna block that from everyone else
Nice.
through the rest of the game. So there's some interesting like player interaction tension
Mm-hmm.
without players really like hurting each other, getting each other's.
Yeah, yeah. It's more like a friendly rivalry as
That's right.
opposed to a full player versus player kind of.
That's right.
attitude.
I kind of liken it to if you've ever lived in a big city and there's like a neighborhood garden and they have you have like individual raised beds and you're like planting vegetables. You don't want someone planting corn in your like potato.
Right, right.
So like you're like, get out of my thing. This is my area. And so when you reserve a ring that you're working on, like this, let's move that. Like that's yours, and no one can mess with you.
Yep.
Stay out of my garden, right?
Yeah.
But when this is done and I drop a signpost, you're gonna get a little benefit from it too.
So I gotta say, like, as far as like kind of the vibe goes, and like the level of depth and difficulty, this really feels like a lot like Flamecraft. Are you familiar with Flamecraft?
I am familiar. And
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's definitely not a game like Flamecraft.
Correct.
I'm just thinking more in terms of vibe and kind of weight
Yeah. So
and adorableness.
well, we've been like getting comparisons to like that sort of like cute, thinky,
Yeah,
like sort of like I don't know category.
yeah.
Sort of developing. With that little like that added whimsical.
Mhm.
So I've been working on 3-dimensional 3D gnomes.
Oh yeah.
Actually, there's a blue one right there in that box if you want to look at it.
Yeah.
And
It's a-
some mini signs and some other things as like potential like Kickstarter upgrades. Yeah, right there.
There we go. Oh, that's adorable. Oh my gosh.
So like, yeah, they're like super interesting. So this would be like potentially like a Kickstarter upgrade or maybe even like
Just a deluxe
like a
edition.
deluxe edition.
Yeah.
So like you'd have little mini gnomes that
Nice.
are like in the garden doing your stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
So and then also like a mini upgrade on the signpost and potentially even like a miniature version of the stump that's 3-dimensional and
Oh,
adds
that would yeah.
flavor
A
to
little
the
more
board.
table presence. Yeah.
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 So kind of just exploring it, looking at the feedback and responding to that feedback, which makes a game better because
Absolutely.
feedback that players give you when they play it and they're like, I love this and I wish I had this, like listening to that pays off.
Awesome. Well, Ammon, I think you got a hot ticket here. We're going to be hearing a lot more about this game. I have a feeling. I really look forward to seeing where it ends up and what you end up doing with it.
Awesome.
Whether it's Kickstarter or with another publisher. And I mean, I have a feeling we're going to be hearing about this one a lot. Thanks for coming by the
Thanks
booth.
for having me.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I really appreciate looking at it.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that's it. I need a better sign off.